Hello and welcome to Pantheon of the Geeks. Welcome to another Malifaux Monday. This is episode 6 and this is my tactics on the upcoming battle against Nicodem, and I'm going to be using Lady Justice, aka Lady J, and I'll be going through what models I'll be using, a bit about Lady Justice and her tactics, and some of the upgrades that I'm taking. Okay, so here's the model that I will be using for Lady Justice. This is the alternate version of Lady Justice. You don't get this in the box set. So yeah, just because I like this model as well. And here is the card for Lady Justice. So her speed, as you can see, she's got a walk value of 5 and a charging value of 7. So it's like a range 12 that she can move. Defensively, she's about average. She's got 14 wounds, which is quite good, and a defence level of 5, which, if you can use it, you can use this riposte ability if you've got a ram and mask. So if an attack fails against this model damages 3, 4 to 6 to the attacker, and the damage receives a negative flip. So that's kind of like a good attack to have, really, and nasty. So with Lady Justice, you're going to be wanting to get in there and get slicing and dicing. Another one to use to keep her alive is Juggernaut, which is a 0 action point. And it says this model may discard a card to heal 1, 2 to 4 damage. So I might be using that to keep her alive if needed. So Lady Justice's strengths lie in her combat, because as I've said before, she's very slicey dicey. So here we have Blind Fighter, if that's going to... Yep, there we go. Blind Fighter. So this model may ignore line of sight when selecting the target of a charge action. So that's quite good. And she's also got Inspiring Sword Play. So when this model kills an enemy model with a melee action, all friendly minion models within the range of 8 inches gain the following condition until the end of the turn. Inspired. This model also gains positive flips to melee and shooting actions. So turning over, we have the Great Sword action. So this, you've already got a 7 of rams, you've already got a little ram there, so you automatically get a critical strike. So when you're coming to add the total to the 7 to add more, if you get a ram, you also get the attack deals +1 damage for each ram in the final duel total, so that's handy to know as well. So this goes up against the defence, and it's a range 2 inches, and the target will suffer 3, 4 to 6 damage, and this damage flip gains a positive flip if the model didn't charge during the activation. So that's a really nasty attack if you can get it. One thing I forgot to mention, I'll just flip the card over, is the Blind Fighter. She can basically charge round corners and through spirits. Because she's blind, she doesn't see them. So normally you wouldn't be able to charge through them, you'd get stopped, but because she's blind, she can charge through them like nobody's business. Okay, so the support actions that she can do, she's got this Final Repose. Models killed by this model do not place markers as a response to being killed. So that'll be really handy against Nicodem. So if I kill one of his punk zombies, they die and get removed off the table. They don't get to put a corpse marker on the table. So this is why she's really good against rezzers. It also works against scrap metal counters as well. So if you're playing Ramos. So on the back, here we have Restore Natural Order, which is a cast of 5 rams, and the target you need to get to is 17 of rams. The range is 8, so remove all conditions on every model within the range. So you can remove poison effects, things like that, and that's on every model, not just your own. So if you've got a Rezzer that keeps healing itself by poisoning itself, if you can get Lady J next to it within 8 inches and remove that, she can then go in and bam, stab, dead. Hopefully. The next one is Covering Fire. So until the end of the turn, this model gains the benefits of soft cover against shooting attacks taken by models within 12 inches. That's mediocre really. It might work if you need it, but I doubt that I'll be really using that much with Lady J, but it's handy to have. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what I'm going to give Lady J. She doesn't really need any upgrades because she's awesome in itself, but I've decided to give her this, which is Vendetta. It's quite expensive at 2 soul stones, but this adds more options onto a greatsword attack. So with a ram, which you already get, if you get a mask, you can use Onslaught. So after damaging, immediately take another action melee attack action against the same target, but you don't get any triggers with this. So that is a good one to use. Or if you get another ram, you can also use Vengeance. The damage flip gains a positive flip. Now this one, it is really handy to have if you've only got 1 ram. You can use Vengeance. But if you get 2 rams, the critical strike that she has on a card is more useful, to be quite honest. Because you get it deals 1 damage for each ram that you get, so it's a lot better to use the critical strike than any of these. But like I say, if you just get the 1 ram and nothing else, if you get like crows or something that's not a mask, then you can use one of these for her. Okay, so the next one I'm taking is Justice Unleashed, and this is 1 soul stone. This card is really for resurrectionists and arcanists. It's not going to be, if you're going up against anything else that's not reses or arcanists, it's pretty useless. So you've got a naught action there, which is Last Rites, which is remove all corpse and scrap markers within 6 inches, which is going to be really handy for Lady Justice and the team. And an action point of 1, Justice Unleashed, which is a cast of 5. You get 5 rams, and the target is 13, and it's a range 6. So undead and spirit models within 6 inches must succeed on a willpower 13 duel or suffer 3 damage, and this damage ignores armour and hard to kill. So that's quite a handy one to have. And like I say, this card will only be used against reses, it's only useful against reses. So those are the 2 cards that I'll be taking. Or Ramos. Yeah, sorry, just thought one. So those are the 2 cards, so Vendetta and Justice Unleashed. Okay, so now we've been through Lady J. So what I'm going to take next is the Scales of Justice. There's the model. Scales of Justice, and this is Lady J's totem. So we've got a speed walk value of 4 and charge of 6, which is neither here nor there, to be quite honest. He's got a defence of 3 and he's got 4 wounds, which is rather poor, but I'm just taking him because he buffs Lady J and the crew. So, made an example, other friendly models within 6 inch aura gain +1 will point, and that's going to be really handy before Seamus and Kyrie, and not really Nicodem unless he summons anything that will affect willpower. The other one is Insignificant. Well, most totems are insignificant, so that's neither here nor there. And Accomplice. After this model ends its activation, a friendly model within 6 inches may activate immediately as a chain activation. So he can activate once I've moved someone else, he can activate automatically. Turning on to the back, his actions. We've got Bash, which is rubbish. We've got a melee value of 3 against defence. He's 1 inch, and the target will suffer 0, 1 or 2 damage, so that's poor, that's rubbish. So the other one is Tip the Scales, so it's a cast of 3 rams, a target of 14 rams against willpower, range 10. So you can choose a positive or negative target model gains the chosen positive or negative on its next duel this turn. So if I wanted to buff Lady J, I could choose a positive flip for Lady J, or if I wanted to use that against a punk zombie, I would give them a negative flip. So that's quite a handy one to have if you can use it at the right time. The other one is tactical actions, which is balance the scales. If the opposing crew has more cards in hand, draw another card. So that's handy. If you've got if you've got 5 in your hand and the other person's got 6, then you get another card. So that's a really, really handy action to have. So the 2 that I'll be using on here will be tip the scales and balance the scales. Right, so the next model I'm going to be taking is a henchman, which is the judge, which is in the Lady J box set. So this is the judge's card. So for a cost of 9, we'll be getting a walk value of 5, a charge value of 6, which is mediocre, a defence of 5 and wounds 10, which is again pretty good, but he's also hard to wound. So damage flips against this model suffer a negative flip and hard to kill. So while this model has 2 or more wounds remaining, when it suffers damage, it may only be reduced back to 1 by a single damage source. So that boosts his defence and makes him a really hardy, sturdy character to have. Okay, so we'll have a look at what actions the judge can take. So we have a long arm blade, which is a melee of 6 of rounds against defence and range 2 inches. And that target will suffer a 2, 4, or 5 damage. So within that you've also got your critical strike, because you've got the 6 of rams there. Well, when damaging the target, this attack deals +1 damage for each ram in the final duel. So if you pull out another, I don't know, 11 of rams, then you can add extra damage. If you get a mask, however, you get blades and bullets. So after damaging, make a long arm pistol attack action against the target. This action is treated as range 2 and may not declare any triggers. So next one down is long arm pistol. So you'll be doing 2, 3 or 5 damage. So that's quite a good one to have if you can trigger that. Next one is long arm pistol, as said. Again, suffers 2, 3 to 5 damage. You get your critical strike with that as well. And this one's vice versa really. You get masks again, bullets and blade, but this time you use long arm blade. So not only are you causing 2, 3 and 5 damage by using the pistol, you could potentially cause another 2, 4 or 5 damage on the model. So those two work very well together. So it doesn't matter which one you choose really. You're just thinking, are you going in for a melee? If you are, then you'll probably choose the long arm blade. Or if you want to shoot, then you'll choose the long arm pistol. So those are really good and work well together. The next one is bound by law. So that's a cast of 5 rounds and the target cast is 13 rounds. This is against willpower and has a range of 12. The target suffers 2 damage. However, undead targets suffer 2, 4 or 8 damage instead. The target gains the following condition until the end of the turn, a rest. This model must discard a card to take a walk or charge action. So that's quite good, especially with it going against undead. So that's all for the judge's actions. So going on to the support actions for the judge. He's got a stand for judgment, which is a cast of 5, a target of 9 rams against the willpower and a range or shooting range of 12. The target model is pushed 5 inches towards this model, so that's kind of like a bit like a Scorpion out of Mortal Kombat. Get over here, kind of thing. So he can shoot him or slash at him or do whatever. On the other side, on the abilities, we have what Lady J has as well, which is Final Repose. So any models killed by this model don't place any markers as a response to being killed. So this is what makes him just as equally as valued to Lady J. So that's the judge. So what upgrades am I going to take for the judge? Well, I'm going to take lead-lined coat, which is soul stone cost of 2. It's quite expensive, but I want to keep him alive for as long as I possibly can. So this model gains the following ability if it does not already have the armour ability. So he gets armour +1 and reduce all damage suffered by this model by 1 to a minimum of 1. So that'll keep him in the battle for a bit longer. Right, so the next model I'll be taking is another henchman, which is Francisco Ortega from the Ortega clan. And this is his card here. So we have a walk value of 5 and a charge of 7, which is quite good, it's not bad. But on top of that we've got a little action here called Enfrente a mí, where you can target an enemy model within 7 inches. So you place this model into base contact with the target and push all other friendly models engaged with that target up to 5 inches directly away from the target. So that's quite handy to have if you've got, like say Lady J and the judge were attacking a flesh construct and nicodem was legging it. Francisco could run in and say, no, I want to have a go, you two get out of the way. He pushes them out of the way and maybe the judge might go into base contact with nicodem so he can't move. So that's quite a good one to have. So we have a defence of 5 and wounds 8, which is okay, it's not bad, but he's got other abilities that he's useful for. So I'm going to go through his attack options next, so what he can do. So we've got a dueling sword, which is 7 of rams, that's against the defence, and 2-inch range. So the target will suffer 2, 3 or 5 damage, and again your critical strike, if you get a ram, you've already got one there. When damaging the target, this attack deals +1 damage for each ram in the final duel total. So that's something that's running through all the guild characters that I've chosen so far, this critical strike. We've got a modified Peacebringer, which is a shooting 6, defence against defence, and a range of 12. And that target suffers 2, 3 to 4 damage, again with critical strike if you can trigger it. We've also got Flurry. So this model may discard a card. If it does, this model may make 3 melee attack actions with an AP cost of 1 against a single target. And we've also got Finesse. So this model may discard a card to gain the following condition until the end of the turn. Finesse melee actions targeting this model suffer a negative flip. So that's quite handy to have as well if you want to give the targeting models a negative flip. On the other side we have El Mayor. So at the start of this model's activation, choose another friendly model within 2 inches. The friendly model gains +2 willpower and +2 defence until the start of this model's next activation, or until this model is killed or sacrificed. So I'm going to be using this to buff Lady J and maybe any models that need it, but mainly Lady J. And it's also got a companion. After a friendly model ends its activation within 6 inches of this model may activate immediately as a chain activation. So that's a really good one to have, because you can move a character within 6 inches of him and then move it again as a chain action. So that's really handy to have. So that's Francisco Ortega, and I'm going to give him an upgrade as well. So the upgrade I'm going to be taking for Francisco is Wade In, and that's a 1 soulstone cost. So the reason for taking this is to give him the hard to kill ability. So while this model has 2 or more wounds remaining, when it suffers damage, it may only be reduced to 1 wound by a single damage source. So that's a bit like the judge. So that makes Francisco really, really hard. And we've also got just a flesh wound, which is a 0 action. A cast of 4, a target of 12 rounds, and there's no range on that. And this model heals 1, 2 to 3 damage. The main reason for taking this card, as I said, is for the hard to kill. So that's Francisco Ortega. So the next guys for this crew are going to be death marshals. I've got 3 of these guys. So there's 1, 2 and 3. And these are the ones that you get in the box set with Lady J. So I've got 3 of these and they cost 6 points each. So with these, you have a walk value of 5 and a charging value of 6, which isn't too bad, not to be sniffed at. You've got a defence of 5 and wounds of 6, so again, not too bad. We've also got an unimpeded for the movement, so this model ignores penalties for severe terrain when moving, so they just leap over things. We've also got a hard to wound +1, so damage flips against this model suffer negative flips. On the back we have the attack actions. So we have a Peacebringer blade, which is a melee of 5 and range 1 against defence. The target suffers 2, 3 or 4 damage. Now with these you don't get any rams in the casting or the melee range, so you have to get a ram when you're playing a card to activate critical strike, and that also is on the Peacebringer as well. It's a shooting value of 5 against defence, range 10, and the target suffers 2, 3 or 5 damage. The next one is the pine box, which are the caskets that they're stood on, not just for poshness, it actually does something. So we've got a casting of 5 of crows, target of 10 of crows, against willpower and range of 1. So target model is buried. If this model takes this action again or is removed from play, then the target model is unburied in base contact with this model before this model is removed from play. At the beginning of this model's activation, it must succeed on an opposed willpower versus willpower duel with the target. If this model loses, the target is unburied in base contact. So basically what that means, reading between the lines, is that you can put a zombie or anything in one of those caskets to bury it, and then if you want to move, if the Death Marshal wants to move, it has to go against willpower versus willpower with that target to enable to move. However, if you want to capture something else in that box, that model that you've already got in there will pop out and the other one will go in. So it's a good action if you just want to get rid of some models for a while you pick off the others. So that's a good one to use. And the last ability is finish the job. So when this model is killed, it may place a scheme marker in base contact with itself before it's removed. So if you've got a scheme marker on the board, if it does get killed, then you can place a scheme marker a bit closer maybe to any of your other crew to be picked up. So that's the Death Marshals. Okay, so the next models I'm going to be taking may or may not change depending on what schemes come out on the day that we play the match. But what I'm going to take is 2 guild dogs. So we've got one there and one there. That's Scott and Barney. Barney's not on. Get on, Barney. There we go. So I'm taking these because they're quite fast models, so if I want to get in there and get scheme markers, these are the ones to get it. So I'll show you the rules. So we have a walking value of 6 and charging value of 9, so you can see they are quite fast models that will get into range very, very quickly. The defence of 5 and wounds of 4, which is quite poor, but I'm not taking them for that reason. They've got the companion ability, so after a friendly model ends its activation within 6 inches of this model may activate immediately as a chain action. We've got insignificant, so the model cannot take interact actions. However, with pack mentality, this model may ignore the insignificant ability while within a pulse of 5 of another friendly hound model. So if I keep them both together, the insignificant rule doesn't apply. We've got a scent of evidence. This model may take the 2 action points of charge action as a 1 action point. So when you charge, it normally costs 2 action points, but this it'll only cost 1 when targeting an enemy model within 2 pulses of a scheme marker. So say for example you've got Mortimer next to a scheme marker, and these guys are within 2 pulses of that model, they can charge him. Their attack options are very rubbish. They've only got 1, which is 1 action point of snapping jaws, which is a melee action of 5 against the defence and range of 1. And that target suffers 1, 3 or 4 damage. Again, with all guild models it has the critical strike, but with this you would need to pull out a Ram's card for this to be activated, because you don't get one in the casting value. So that's going to be all my guys, that's my crew with all my upgrades that I'm taking to go up against Nicodem's, Paul's little army, because I don't like reses, they're annoying. They just bring undead back just because they can, and Lady J's quite good at stopping that and stamping it out. So this is the first time I've actually ever used Lady J's crew. I've used Sonia's and Perdita's. I've not actually used Lady J, so it's going to be interesting to see how a fair nail nibbling will commence soon, because I'm not sure whether I'll win or not, so hopefully I will. So there we go, but we'll have a go, we'll have a damn good go against the reses and undead, and keep them undead. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll hope to see you for the game that's going to be played. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already, it really helps us out a lot, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye.
Next week, Nicodem versus Lady Justice.
It's on, bitch.